The Power of Forgiveness, a Buddhist Perspective, by a lifelong researcher in Buddhist philosophy. In the vast and intricate terrain of the human heart, there are few landscapes more desolate and tormenting than those scarred by resentment and the refusal to forgive. For over 4 decades, my journey as a researcher into the depths of Buddhist thought has repeatedly led me to a profound and unshakable conclusion: the practice of forgiveness, understood in its proper Buddhist context, is not a sentimental platitude or an act of moral weakness. It is one of the most powerful, courageous, and psychologically sophisticated acts a human being can undertake. It is the master key that unlocks the inner prison of our own anger, a direct path to the liberation of the heart. The modern Western understanding of forgiveness is often fraught with difficulty. It is frequently confused with condoning a harmful act, forgetting a painful memory, or reconciling with an unrepentant perpetrator. This confusion creates a significant barrier, making forgiveness seem either impossible or unjust. The Buddha, as the supreme physician of the mind, approached this territory with a radically different and profoundly pragmatic perspective. He taught that the act of withholding forgiveness is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned. In the Buddhist view, forgiveness is, first and foremost, a gift you give to yourself. It is a profound act of self-compassion, a conscious decision to release the toxic burden of anger and resentment that poisons our own mind and body. It is not about absolving the other person, it is about freeing ourselves. It is a practice rooted not in naive sentimentality, but in the clear-eyed wisdom that recognizes the self-destructive nature of hatred, and a boundless compassion that understands the intricate web of suffering that motivates all beings. This article is an in-depth exploration of this liberating power. We will journey into the Buddhist understanding of anger as a mental affliction, redefine forgiveness as a path of inner healing, and explore the specific, practical tools, such as mindfulness, loving kindness, and compassion, that the Buddha prescribed for its cultivation. We will also delve into the profound philosophical insights that make forgiveness not just an emotional act, but a deeply rational one. This is not a call to forget injustice or to passively accept harm, but an invitation to discover the strength, wisdom, and profound peace that comes from learning to finally let go. Part 1. The Prison of Unforgiveness, Understanding Anger and Resentment. Before we can appreciate the cure, we must fully diagnose the disease. In Buddhist psychology, anger, hatred, and ill will, collectively known as dosa or vyapada, are categorized as one of the 3 primary poisons, or fires, that fuel the cycle of suffering, samsara. The other 2 are greed, lobha, and delusion, moha. These are not seen as righteous emotional responses, but as toxic and unskillful mental states, kilesas or defilements, that corrupt our consciousness and lead directly to our own unhappiness. When someone harms us, the initial feeling of hurt or anger is a natural, conditioned response. The real problem begins when we cling to this anger, when we nurture it, rehearse the story of our grievance, and allow it to fester and harden into long-term resentment. This is the state of unforgiveness. The Buddha used powerful similes to describe the mind of an angry person. It is like a log from a funeral pyre, charred at both ends and smeared with filth. It is like a pot of water brought to a boil, unable to reflect anything clearly. The psychological and karmic consequences, the suffering caused by this internal fire, is immense and multifaceted. Mental suffering. A mind consumed by resentment is a mind at war. It is a state of constant agitation, tension, and obsession. We are robbed of our peace, our joy, and our ability to be present in our own lives. The past harm is over, but in our refusal to forgive, we choose to relive it again and again, allowing the perpetrator to continue harming us from within our own minds. We become a prisoner of the past. Physical suffering. Modern science has corroborated what the ancient teachings knew intuitively. Chronic anger and hostility are directly linked to a host of physical ailments, including high blood pressure, heart disease, weakened immune function, and digestive problems. The hot coal of anger literally burns up our own physical well-being. Relational suffering. A heart hardened by resentment cannot be truly open to others. Our bitterness can spill out and poison our relationships with innocent people. We may become cynical, suspicious, and guarded, unable to give or receive love freely. Karmic suffering. From a Buddhist perspective, our intentions, satana, are the seeds of our future. The intention to hold on to hatred and to wish ill upon another is a profoundly unwholesome act of mind. It plants negative karmic seeds that will inevitably ripen into future suffering for ourselves. By refusing to forgive, we are actively creating the conditions for our own future unhappiness. Understanding this diagnosis is the first step. We must see, with unflinching honesty, that unforgiveness is not a weapon we are wielding against our enemy, but a prison we have built for ourselves. Forgiveness, then, is not about letting the other person out of jail, it is about walking out of that prison ourselves. Part 2. The Buddhist redefinition of forgiveness, a gift to oneself. To embark on the path of forgiveness, we must first clear away the thicket of misconceptions that surrounds it. The Buddhist understanding is both subtle and pragmatic. What forgiveness is not in a Buddhist context? It is not condoning. Forgiving someone does not mean that what they did was okay. It is not an endorsement of their harmful actions. We can forgive the person while still holding a clear and firm conviction that their actions were wrong, unskillful, and unacceptable. It is not forgetting. The phrase, forgive and forget, is not a Buddhist one. The memory of the harm may always remain. Forgetting can be a form of denial or suppression. Buddhist forgiveness is about changing our relationship to the memory. It is about remembering the event without re-experiencing the debilitating anger, hatred, and pain associated with it. The memory ceases to be an open, festering wound and becomes a healed scar, a part of our history, but one that no longer has the power to dominate our present. It is not reconciliation. Forgiveness is an internal process. Reconciliation is an external one that involves two people. We can fully forgive someone in our own heart without ever speaking to them again or allowing them back into our lives. Reconciliation may or may not be appropriate, depending on whether the other person has changed, taken responsibility, and can be trusted not to cause further harm. Forgiveness, however, is always appropriate, because it is for our own benefit. We do not need the other person's apology or repentance to begin our own process of healing. It is not a sign of weakness, on the contrary. The Buddha taught that true strength lies in the ability to remain patient and non-reactive in the face of provocation. The Kakakupama Sutta, the simile of the saw, states that even if bandits were to carve you up limb by limb, a true practitioner would not allow their mind to be overcome with hatred. This is not a call to be a doormat, but a call to cultivate a mind so resilient and powerful that it cannot be hijacked by the unskillfulness of others. It takes far more strength to calm the fires of anger than to pour fuel on them. What forgiveness is in a Buddhist context? At its core, Buddhist forgiveness is an act of renunciation. It is the conscious and intentional letting go of the unwholesome mental states of anger, aversion, and the desire for revenge. It is the release of our attachment to the story of our grievance. It is a profound act of self-love and compassion. A recognition that we deserve to be free from the burden of carrying another's wrongdoing inside of us. It is the choice to prioritize our own peace of mind over the fleeting, toxic satisfaction of indignation. Part 3. The Tools of the Heart, Cultivating the Conditions for Forgiveness. The Buddha did not simply tell his followers to forgive. He provided them with a sophisticated toolkit of mental cultivation practices, bhavana, designed to create a mind that is naturally capable of letting go. Forgiveness is not a single decision, but the natural outcome of a heart that has been trained in wisdom and compassion. 1. Mindfulness, sati, observing the fire without becoming it. Mindfulness is the foundation. It is the practice of paying attention to our inner world with a non-judgmental awareness. When anger or resentment arises, the mindful practitioner does not immediately identify with it, "I am so angry." Instead, they observe it as an impersonal phenomenon. They notice the physical sensations of the anger, the heat in the face, the tightness in the chest, the clenching of the jaw. They notice the angry thoughts as they arise and pass, recognizing them as mere mental events, not as absolute truths. They notice the raw emotional energy of the anger, simply feeling it without being swept away by its narrative. This simple act of observation creates a crucial space. We shift from being the angry person to being the awareness that is seeing the anger. In this space, the anger loses its power over us. We see that it is an impermanent, conditioned state that, if not fed with more angry thoughts, will eventually pass away on its own. Mindfulness allows us to stop pouring fuel on the fire. 2. Loving kindness, metta, the direct antidote to ill will. If mindfulness creates the space for forgiveness, loving kindness fills that space with a healing balm. Metta is the sincere and unconditional wish for all beings to be happy. It is the direct, systemic antidote to hatred and ill will. The practice of metta meditation is a powerful tool for forgiveness. The traditional method involves extending wishes of well-being, first to ourselves, then to loved ones, then to neutral people, and finally, and most challengingly, to the person who has harmed us. This may seem impossible at first. The key is to understand that we are not trying to force a feeling of liking them. We are undertaking a training of the heart. By silently repeating phrases like, "May you be happy," "May you be free from suffering," "May you be at peace," we are planting wholesome seeds in our own mind. We are consciously replacing the obsessive, hateful thoughts with thoughts of goodwill. This practice slowly, methodically, erodes the hardened shell of our resentment. It is a recognition that even this person who has harmed us is, on a fundamental level, a being who wishes to be happy and is likely acting out of their own deep suffering and confusion. 3. Compassion, karuna, understanding the suffering behind the harm. Compassion is the heart's trembling in the face of suffering. The practice of karuna is essential for forgiveness because it helps us to rehumanize the person who has harmed us. When we are trapped in unforgiveness, we tend to see the perpetrator as a monstrous, one-dimensional caricature of evil. Compassion invites us to look deeper. It asks us to contemplate the likely causes and conditions that led to their harmful actions. What suffering, ignorance, fear, or trauma might this person have experienced in their own life that led them to cause pain to others? As the Tibetan master Shantideva wrote, "All the suffering in the world comes from seeking our own happiness. All the happiness in the world comes from seeking the happiness of others." Harmful actions are almost always a misguided and unskillful attempt to find happiness or to alleviate one's own pain. When we can begin to see the perpetrator not as a monster, but as a deeply suffering and confused human being, something shifts in our heart. Our anger can begin to soften into a form of sadness or pity. This does not excuse their action, but it frees us from the grip of our personal hatred. 4. Patience, khanti, the strength to endure without retaliation. Patience, or khanti, is one of the 10 perfections, paramis. It is the quality of forbearance and endurance. It is the strength to bear with difficult situations and people without losing our mental balance. Forgiveness is not always a quick or easy process. It requires the patient willingness to sit with our own hurt and anger without immediately lashing out or suppressing it. Khanti gives us the emotional resilience to stay with the process, to endure the discomfort of our own wounds as they heal, and to refrain from the unskillful urge to retaliate, which would only create more negative karma for ourselves. Part 4. The wisdom that liberates, seeing the bigger picture. Beyond the cultivation of these wholesome emotions, the deepest and most unshakable forgiveness is rooted in wisdom, prajna, in seeing the world as it truly is. 1. The wisdom of impermanence, anicca. The event that harmed us happened in the past. It is over. It exists now only as a memory, a thought form that we are choosing to keep alive in the present moment. The person who harmed us is also not the same person they were then. They are in a constant state of flux. As are we. By deeply contemplating the impermanent, fluid nature of all reality, we can begin to loosen our attachment to a fixed, solid event in the past. Forgiveness is the act of allowing the past to be in the past, and to fully inhabit the freshness of the present moment. 2. The wisdom of non-self, anatta. This is the most profound insight. Our sense of being hurt is deeply tied to our identification with a solid, permanent, and vulnerable self. It is I who was wronged. It is my pride that was hurt. The practice of insight meditation reveals that this solid self is an illusion. What we call our self is a dynamic, interdependent process of body, thoughts, and feelings. When we investigate this process, we can ask, what is it exactly that was hurt? Is it my body? That is constantly changing. Is it a thought? That has already passed. Is it a feeling? That too is fleeting. As the grip of the ego loosens, we take things less personally. we see that the harmful action was not an arrow shot into the core of a real me, but an event that intersected with this impersonal, conditioned process. This insight depersonalizes the hurt and creates a vast, spacious awareness in which forgiveness can naturally arise. 3. The wisdom of karma. A deep understanding of the law of karma can be a powerful support for forgiveness. Karma is the natural law of cause and effect, where actions motivated by certain intentions lead to corresponding results. The person who harmed us, through their unskillful action motivated by greed, hatred, or delusion, has planted a powerful seed for their own future suffering. They are the heirs of their own actions. Understanding this allows us to step back. We do not need to be their judge and jury. We do not need to carry the burden of ensuring they get their just desserts. We can trust that the universal law of causality will take care of that. This frees us from the desire for revenge and allows us to focus on our own healing, with a sense of compassion for the suffering the other person has inevitably created for themselves. Part 5. Stories of transformation, parables from the tradition. The Buddhist scriptures are filled with powerful stories that illustrate the transformative power of forgiveness. The Buddha and Angulimala. Angulimala was a fearsome serial killer who wore a garland of his victim's fingers. He even attempted to murder the Buddha. Yet, when confronted by the Buddha's fearless compassion, Angulimala's rage dissolved. He repented, became a monk, and eventually attained enlightenment. The Buddha's forgiveness was not based on Angulimala deserving it. It was based on seeing the potential for awakening even in the most deluded of beings. The Buddha and Devadatta. The Buddha's own cousin, Devadatta, repeatedly tried to kill him and usurp his position. He dropped a boulder on him and sent a raging elephant to trample him. Yet, the Buddha never showed a trace of anger or ill will towards Devadatta, always meeting his hatred with a heart of unshakable compassion and forgiveness. The story of Kissagatami, a woman whose child had died, went mad with grief, carrying the dead body through the village and begging for medicine. The Buddha did not dismiss her. He compassionately told her he could help. But first, she must bring him a mustard seed from a house where no one had ever died. As she went from house to house, she could not find one that had been untouched by death. She came to understand the universal nature of loss and suffering. This wisdom healed her grief far more profoundly than any magic medicine, allowing her to let go and forgive the injustice of her personal tragedy. Part 6. A practical guide to forgiveness meditation. Formal meditation can be a powerful way to cultivate the heart of forgiveness. Find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed. Settle the mind. Begin by bringing your attention to your breath for a few minutes, allowing the mind and body to relax. Cultivate metta for yourself for several minutes. Offer yourself wishes of loving kindness. May I be happy. May I be free from the pain of anger and resentment. May I be at peace. It is essential to start with self-compassion. Bring to mind the person you wish to forgive. Visualize this person. Acknowledge the pain and hurt their actions have caused you. Allow yourself to feel it without judgment. Forgive them for your own sake, silently and from your heart. Repeat phrases such as, "I know you have caused me pain, but I am practicing to release the burden of my anger. For my own peace, for my own well-being, I am working on forgiving you. I forgive you for any harm you have caused me, intentionally or unintentionally, through your actions, your words, or your thoughts. I am letting go of the poison of my resentment. I wish you peace." Repeat this for several minutes, allowing the intention to sink in. Don't worry if you don't feel it fully. The intention itself is the powerful part of the practice. Ask for forgiveness yourself. Now, reflect on the times you have caused harm to others, intentionally or unintentionally. Cultivate a sense of sincere remorse and silently ask for their forgiveness. For any harm that I have caused others, through my own confusion, my anger, or my fear, I ask for their forgiveness. May all beings whom I have harmed be free from the pain I have caused. Forgive yourself. Finally, turn the heart of forgiveness toward yourself. For the mistakes you have made, for the times you have acted out of ignorance, for holding on to anger for so long, for the ways I have harmed myself and others. I forgive myself. I am learning. I will do better. Conclude. End by radiating loving kindness to all beings everywhere, including yourself and the person you are working to forgive. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. May all beings be at peace. Conclusion. The courageous path to inner freedom. The power of forgiveness, from the Buddhist perspective, is nothing less than the power to reclaim our own minds. It is the courageous refusal to allow another person's actions to dictate our inner state. It is the profound wisdom that chooses peace over being right, and freedom over the chains of a grievance. This path is not always easy. It requires patience, diligence, and a great deal of compassion for our own struggles. But it is a path of ever-increasing lightness and joy. With every small act of letting go, we dismantle another bar of our inner prison. With every moment of replacing a resentful thought with one of goodwill, we allow a little more light into our hearts. The Buddha's teaching on forgiveness is a timeless and universal remedy for one of the human heart's most painful afflictions. It is a guide to transforming our deepest wounds into sources of wisdom, our greatest enemies into teachers of patience, and our resentful, constricted hearts into boundless oceans of compassion. It is, in the truest sense, the path to finding an unshakable and lasting peace.